Well, today we're continuing this sermon series, I've been meaning to ask. And our question today is, where are you from? Now, of course, if I was to try and answer this, there's any number of answers I could give. I could tell you that I am from the only heart-shaped state in the Union. Of course, I mean Ohio. I also married a native Coloradoan, so I know how well-beloved Colorado is, and I have since learned that I cannot talk about any other kind of peach or melon or corn or chili pepper if it's not from Colorado. So I have been well taught. But it's quite a question, right? Where are you from? There's lots of possibilities in it, both good and bad. It provides an opportunity for the asker to hear more about the one asked, to learn how they would describe their origins and how they understand their starting point in this wide world. It can also be a weapon that hurts and harms, making it clear that someone in our midst is not from here, an outsider, a stranger. And that's when the question gets asked. And then you'll notice it gets asked again, except now it's rephrased. Now it's, no. I mean, where are you from originally? We get just enough info to confirm our suspicions, and then the listening stops. I remember this happening to me when my family and I moved from Colorado to Wyoming for my first pastoral appointment. When people heard I was from Denver, they stopped listening. They had heard enough to determine I was not one of them. Curiosity stopped, learning stopped, and assumptions started. I spent more time dispelling what people thought they knew about me than sharing who I was. I learned facts about myself that I never knew. I was told I was a yuppie, which, considering I was in a small town in Wyoming, it was kind of maybe complimentary that they thought I was a young urban professional. The rest was a little less so. They also said I was a city boy. They also thought I was a pot smoker, and I was even told that I was a weed peddler because I still had Colorado license plates, and so they thought this meant that people in town thought I would be smuggling pot back and forth between Denver. Now, I'd like to remind you, this is all while I was a pastor in the town. I even got told that I must have hated Denver and was glad to have left, rather than ever being asked about my feelings or my experiences. And again, my wife is not only a native of Colorado, she was born in Denver. Now, this is a mild example of how this question can go wrong. When the question goes right, though, we have a chance to hear and receive each other's stories. Our sermon series, I've Been Meaning to Ask, looks at what it takes to build beloved community. And a big part of that is building our capacity to cultivate courageous conversations like this one. Where are you from? Could you imagine Adam being asked this question in the garden? Could you imagine how Adam would answer this question? Well, we turn to the Genesis story, but a little bit further on than probably where we're used to starting. The story is the one right after God speaks things into existence. We now come to this point in the story where God's done talking. God's ready to get the divine hands a bit dirty. This God is ready to get covered in dust and mud to mold our shape and then fill it with holy breath. And each story that we receive when we ask this question Each story reveals a different person, a new expression of the divine, a new way God's image is expressed through this dirt-given life. Humanity. Now, I will admit, the first chapter of Genesis usually gets all the press, right? It's a pretty impressive chapter. There's God hovering over the water. And God speaks things into existence. This is not a God who has to pick things up and make them at this point. God just says, I think there should be light, and there was. God said, I think there should be dry land, and there was. And this love, this creative energy of God spills out over these 7 days of Genesis and creates everything we know. All the flowers and stars and critters and persons around us. And then we get to the second chapter. And here the story kind of stops and backs up. Focuses back into the creation of humanity. Yes, God spoke the cosmos into being, lit the heavens, divided earth and water, all through the divine word. But now, when we revisit this, we see a God who gets involved deeply and intimately to make something with their own hands. Now, I'm a father of a 5-year-old. And what I almost imagine at this point is it's kind of like God getting that new container of Play-Doh. Oh, have you ever had that moment? So many possibilities. It's not squished yet. It's not dry. That perfect Play-Doh. And you think to yourself, what can I make? And there's God gathering up dirt and mud and gets to shaping. A couple of limbs here, some eyes there, a heart, lungs, and maybe some funny wispy bits at the top. I kind of feel like if we were looking over God's shoulder, we might say, that's kind of a funny looking carrot kind of thing. And what's that funny stuff you got up there? Then God does something else different. Something else contrary to anything else God has done up to this point. God breathes into this mud thing he has made, giving it not only life, but a share of the divine's own spirit. Now, why does God put in all this work? We're told God looked around after creating the heavens and the earth, noticing that there was still no human being to farm the fertile land. This is a strange passage, isn't it? It's like God saying, well, I made all this stuff, and this thing that I haven't yet made is needed to help with all of this. This human being that I haven't yet created is a necessary part. I'm going to have to make them because they have a role to play in creation, bringing the world along toward its fullest possible potential. God takes Adama, the ground, the earth, terra firma, and crafts human beings out of it. And what's striking to me is from this same ground, God makes every plant and every animal too. We are made from the same dust. This links the human to the ground and presents him as the solution to the lack of someone to take care of the ground. And we're reminded that we and everything around us shares a common source. And you know what the crazy thing is? And I feel like this is something that many of you are probably getting ready to do because, we're in springtime and hopefully things don't get too cold in the next few days and maybe we can start planting before too long. But, if you headed out to your garden, out to the yard, or even the nearest patch of dirt and you took a scoop of that And let's say you were scientifically minded, and you said, you know what, I want to know what's in this dirt. What makes things grow? And you took it, and you filtered out all the bacteria, and the microorganisms, and the worms, and the bugs, and everything else. And you got its genes, you got the genetic code of everything that's there in the dirt, making it alive. And let's say you just on a lark decided to test your own self against this dirt. 70%. 70% of the genetic material of those things that make dirt alive is part of our DNA too. Don't know how that breakdown quite works. I don't know if it's like 70% dirt and we're 30% spirit. I don't know if that's quite the ratio. But that is amazing. We have 70% of ourselves that is still in common with the dirt. And in Genesis 2:15, God confirms this connection again. As the text shares how God took the human and settled him in the Garden of Eden to farm it and to take care of it. God made us from dirt to take care of the dirt, to make it grow, to help this all thrive. Now, the Hebrew word here translated as farm confirms it. The word abad means farming, but it also means serving the land. Now, again, this is a stark difference in Genesis 1, that one we normally like to turn to, where we get the words like dominion and subjugate. But here, it is serve. Again and again in this passage, God points to quite literally our common ground. Our starting place is dust breathed to life by God's own Spirit. God also highlights something else in this creation story, something that I hope is almost unavoidable at this point. We are interconnected and interdependent with one another. Creation keeps creating with us as a part of it, and at the same time, we don't survive without creation. We are connected with it, even on a genetic level. So here's Adam's and our core, where are you from? Answer, but it doesn't stop there. No. For the rest of the answer, we need to look at the rivers. That almost forgettable piece in this morning's story. Those 4 rivers that are mentioned. When Gina was mentioning that, did you notice where those rivers start from? Eden. There is a river in Eden, and its waters take care of all of paradise. But like all water, it doesn't stop moving there. It keeps going and spills out into the world, becoming the headwaters of 4 rivers into known and named areas of the world. Did you catch that? They already had names like Cush and Assyria, implying that there are already people there, living, tending, growing, to give those places and those rivers names. The world is dependent on this common source always, but this source flows out and divides and spreads, just as humanity has already flowed out and divided and spread. When Adam and Eve must later leave this garden, it is a sign for us. They do not move from a world of blessing to one devoid of blessing. They move from blessing to blessing, because God's creation isn't static. Eden is not some irreplaceable paradise, a perfect state of affairs. It is the starting point for creation, and creation is creation only when it is creating, because that means it is alive. Only dead things don't change. What I'm inviting you to see is that every drop of water flows from one source. Every living creation shares in this source. We are all part of the ground, and we are all a piece of the God who breathed into us. When we ask, "Where are you from?" it should be a sacred invitation to receive a piece of the divine. If you and I are made from the same dirt that God has molded with God's own hands, and if God has also put you and me here to make sure that same dirt thrives and is well cared for, then how important is this kind of question? Think about it. You are made from dirt. Your sacred role is to take care of the dirt, to serve it, to help it thrive. Who here is made of dirt? Look around. This is who you're supposed to be tending to. This is the dirt. And it doesn't stop here. Every tree, every animal, every person is made of that dirt. Our sacred duty is to understand that we cannot survive without everything else made from the same mud and grit as ourselves. Our sacred duty involves the beloved community to see that all of us are part of an interdependent whole. We cannot care for something, tend to it, and make it grow if we know nothing about it. And if you need proof for this, it's very simple. I would invite you to examine how many houseplants have gone to that great garden in the sky because we did not know enough about them. We need each other's stories. But because of the harm we often do with this question, we have lost the right to these stories. Vulnerability has too often been repaid with harm. So today, then, we have a chance to start again. In this place, in this community, to reawaken our curiosity, to stop our assumptions, to ask each other again, and honestly this time, where are you from? Now that will involve stopping our assumptions, and we all know what assumptions do to us. And I cannot say it because I'm a pastor, and it probably would not be quite kosher for me to swear from the pulpit. And you know what the best way to stop our assumptions is? It's very simple. It's almost going to seem how simple it is. Listen. Listen. Don't jump to judgments. Don't make quick quips about the answers given. Don't ask leading questions. Listen, learn, and receive. See that their life, the distinct way that God molded them out of the dust, flows all the way from Eden, and those stories and those lives still have the power to create new life today. So I'm going to give you homework, but it's not graded. So there we go. Your homework is to ask someone this question over the next month. And you don't even have to ask it of a stranger, because you know who we're most likely to assume that we know everything about? The person closest to us. Our spouse, our parent, our sibling, our child, whoever it may be, even a close friend. We may say, I've known them for years. I don't even have to ask them what they like, what they want, what they think, what they feel, because I already know it. Well, guess what, my friend? You've just made an assumption. So maybe ask them, where are you from? And you know what I'm going to bet? You might still be surprised at how they answer. Take the time. Ask the question. See what you receive. How have God's hands shaped the human being before you? What of the sacred do you see in them? What would your life, this world, be without them? Amen.